Welcome to China Focus. I'm Shelley Zhang. It's not a good time for Apple in China right now, to put it mildly. It started about 2 weeks ago during the annual Consumers Day broadcast on China Central Television, where they attacked Apple for having a different warranty for China than for other countries. But since then, there's been no halt in state-run media's attack on Apple. And besides that, Apple's also facing lawsuits from several other companies in China over trademark considerations and other issues. What is the deal with Apple in China? Is this a concerted attack from Chinese state-run media? Here today to talk about this, we have China analysts Jason Ma and Chen Zhifei. So I think from looking at this from the outside, why are they doing this?
Indeed, this is the question everyone is asking, because what they are attacking about Apple is pretty stupid. I mean, it's they're attacking Apple's after-sales service, but indeed, Apple's service is best, one of the best in China. And all other companies only replace the damaged part. Apple almost replaced the whole cell phone for you within a year. So I guess and also the scale of attack. It's like almost all the media, CCTV, China.
I mean, it's impossible to look at this and not think that everybody's kind of in on it together.
There is something kind of more like a high-level coordinated decision. So a lot of people thinking there is political reason involved. I more think it's a way to demonstrate the power of the party and also to promote Chinese brand like Huawei, like Lenovo, and like ZTE, and those Chinese brand.
So you're saying it's more kind of like a protectionism issue in a way, that they want to promote domestic brands?
Protectionism is part of the game, and they see Apple as up and coming kind of the behemoth that would dominate the Chinese market. And right now, Apple taking issue with what you said at the beginning remark, it's having a pretty good time in Chinese market. Yeah, they made like $6.7 billion in last quarter. Over the whole year of 2012, they're earning up to $24 billion in Chinese market. So China market has been morphed into the second in terms of profitability.
It's the second right behind the US.
Naturally, right. Apple has been victimized by its own success in its whole game, and in terms of getting attention of the government.
Well, I haven't looked into this, but I had the impression that there were other cell phone, that are more popular than Apple.
Right. I guess in China, kind of probably number one is Samsung, and Samsung really successful over there. And but it's for some reason, because the Samsung is almost the same kind of as South Korea. South Korea is the only thing about the Samsung. So I guess South Korea is very close to China, and in some way they are pretty kind of obedient to China. So in this way, I guess attacking Samsung is more about attacking kind of something they are very close, the country they are very close.
So you're saying because Apple is an American company, there's kind of that element of nationalism too?
I guess so, because during the attack, the major kind of thing is stir the nationalism among Chinese consumers. They constantly saying, we are treated unfairly, we are treated as a second level kind of users. So this is the language they constantly use in this attack. So I guess probably it's something like they really kind of, because of Apple is from US as a US company, and some people even saying like that's a retaliation about something kind of US government is doing with Huawei in US. But I generally consider this as a stupid kind of political oriented attack, which is more for the protectionism.
So it does have something. It's not just an economic issue. It does have something to do with
I think
it's
more to protectionism and to commercial interests. I think my first order concern is that they want to beef up the censorship. They think Apple, as good as it is in terms of cooperating with the regime in censorship, is still seen as U.S. competitor. And they wanted to beef up their censorship by virtue of their own companies through Huawei and ZTE.
What do you mean beef up censorship?
Because smartphones are on the rise. A smartphone would put a lot into the hands of consumers in spreading news and information. And the smartphone will become the next darling in the market in China. And Huawei and the ZTE all trotting out their new products in that area. However, those products are not yet up to the level of iPhone and tablets offered by Apple in terms of quality, in terms of after-sales service. So the government wants to push down Apple and beef up and push up those companies so that they can better gag the information of the Chinese people.
Right now, Apple is not gagging information, or?
Right, Apple is very collaborate with the Chinese government. Like in two cases, NTD do have iPhone software, which is not available in China because Apple censored that from
So it's
their
not
App
in the
Store.
App Store in China?
Yeah, in China you can. And also in other incidents, a person developed a software who is kind of introduced I'll oversee Chinese forum to the Chinese people, and when Chinese government found it, they informed Apple. Apple immediately take that away. So right now, Apple is doing whatever Chinese ask them to do.
So it seems like they don't have any argument with that.
No, but the problem
what
is
happened is, if you take a look at the Google case that has been used as a parallel in its whole setting, it's instructive. At any rate, these are U.S. firms. They have to abide by U.S. laws. Of course, Apple has been more cooperative, accommodating, even ingratiating when comparison with Google in terms of cooperating with the regime. However, still, it's a U.S. company. There are laws Apple would not be able to violate. There are also human rights internal backlash from the American public. So the Chinese regime is naturally worried about how far they can push for Apple to cooperate.
Let me ask about the Google thing, because people are saying, well, maybe there are parallels, but Google kind of seem to have antagonized the Chinese Communist Party more.
But you remember, at the very beginning, Google was also very collaborative. I mean, basically, they agreed to censor everything, ask the kind of Chinese government, ask them to. So they have this kind of a very deep interest to these foreign companies. I mean, when Google first get into China, they kind of answer all the kind of censorship. I mean, so Google was really kind of criticized for that.
Right.
But Apple right now is doing whatever Chinese government has to do, but still they are the Chinese, not the baby of the Chinese government.
So you're saying they will not trust Apple?
There's one important evidence that I should cite and put out of it into perspective. There was a memo being circulated in the top echelon of propaganda officials within the party hierarchy that says very clearly that number one priority for the party is to combat the widespread message information being disseminated through the platforms of internet, especially smartphones. So that's number one target of persecution.
So they're going to kind of tackle smartphones as the next kind of extension of the firewall.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let me ask about the Chinese reaction to the Apple attack. Are people losing faith in Apple because of this?
No, indeed. As you said, basically the sales are going up. So this is really a stupid act from the Chinese government. I mean, by doing this stupid thing, attack, and a very weak attack to Apple, which is very popular in China, which is not kind of hurt Apple's sales, but hurt the kind of whole influential the other government media is.
So I was going to ask about this because Caijing, a magazine, published after People's Daily published a very prominent article, front page about how they need to smash Apple's arrogance. Like Apple's such an arrogant company, they don't give media journalists like interviews, things like that. Very kind of comically unself-aware article, but like they are talking about how Apple's so arrogant. So Caijing asked, "What are your top arrogant companies to Chinese internet users?" And they said, Apple was not up there. All of the top ranks were state-owned companies.
Yeah, I agree with Jason's reading that this has caused a backlash. And the effect is definitely countervailing against the government's authorities' expectation. So they were living in their own world. They don't know, they don't have the pulse of the public. The public is definitely unified on the front of Apple. Somebody even suggested Apple should stop sales in China and only allow sales by mail and then double the price. Still, Apple will become more premium product in China.
It seems like they're coming on a little strong. I mean, if you were looking from a Western angle, you would look at this and saying, like, if you have this kind of coordinated attempt to discredit Apple, like, why wouldn't you do it like a little more subtly? Right,
that's all they can get. Basically, it's Apple is pretty kind of a carefully kind of operated company. I mean, they are very hard and only find this a small thing over there. And but the problem, if they are self-aware kind of they will stop doing it, but they anyway carry on and then end up like in
I
this
think
awkward
it's
situation.
It's really coming from nowhere. That's why it's so striking. For Westerners, if you want me to give you any suggestion or advice, I mean, then the only thing I can mention is probably stop competing with big national champions supported by the government regime. Because even if you're very cautious, you're very careful, but you are in a very popular fields like telecommunications, energy, electronics, you're dead. Basically, you can be however kind or nice you are.
This
eventually,
is not
you
what
still
Facebook wants to hear.
Yeah. I mean, eventually you will be on the other side of Chinese government regime.
I was going to ask about this. What about other, U.S. companies, other foreign companies because everybody sees China as like the next big market. So,
right,
you go in, and is there the chance that you could suddenly someday find yourself being attacked by the government?
Which is highly likely, especially in this kind of IT-oriented, information-oriented area. I mean, you will never remember, as long as the CCTV they are controlling the country, information is their life. So they view really as kind of the only situation you surround them, like you convert it to a CCP's company. Otherwise, you will always to be in their cautious list. And you will suffer this kind of thing from time to time.
That's right. Last time it's Google and Apple was spared. This time it was Apple and Samsung was spared. But who knows? Next, it could be Samsung that we are going to have to talk.
So what would you say, what should Apple do? What should companies like this do?
I think Apple probably want to follow the footprint or example of Google, that is to stand its ground, really upholding its principle. And then you have the moral upper hand or the moral high ground that can be very effective in combating the government's mandate or intervention. Because in that way, you get positive publicity from the American public, and then in that way, you will get your hands strengthened, and government actually become a little intimidated. Otherwise, you become just a very vulnerable target of that attack.
I think target the Chinese people, and you can care less from this attack. I can say you can care less about the public, government, media, because they have a very small influence about your consumer. So keep directly address your consumer and satisfy them, then you will still have pretty good sales in China.
So it's basically, address the people, don't worry about what they're saying about you in the media.
In the public official media.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both for talking about this issue today, and thank you for watching. And we'd love to hear what you think about this issue. Send us an email at the address below, or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a comment. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.